Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. This is the underground movement of savage marketers from all over the world. We are not Fortune 500 companies. We are real entrepreneurs with real businesses that have one major thing in mind: to set goals and devour them daily. Because we understand that everyone wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. Now let's get this revolution started. What is up, everybody? John Hiley here with the Marketing Revolution podcast and the Marketing Savage Facebook group. Hope you guys are having an amazing day today. And we're actually live now. It is Tuesday, but this podcast is going to drop on Thursday for my weekly interview. And we have none other than one of the most masterful closers that I've ever had the opportunity to spend some time with, and a multi-million-dollar closer who had recently just came from and I'll actually let him tell the story, but he recently came from that of an insurance sales position where he was weekly clocking in, clocking out like a lot of people out there. And over a very short amount of time, Drewbie Wilson has been able to live his dream and take everything to the next level. So welcome, Drewbie Wilson.
Man, that's a hell of an intro, John. I appreciate that, brother. I'm really grateful to be here and get to share some of my story and hang out with you for a little while, man. Always a blast talking with you.
So that being said, Drewbie, yeah, man, absolutely. So let's step back a little bit. Let's step back to where you were. So how long ago was you working a 9-to-5 job? Let's just start right at the beginning of your story.
Man, so beginning of my story, shoot, how far do you want to go back? Because I think it's even before the insurance job, right? We're talking about sales. We're talking about marketing.
Let's start there. Let's go as far back as you feel comfortable, man.
Yeah, let's do that. So basically, man, when I was a kid in my late teens, I was kind of a shithead, right? I did what most shithead kids do. I got into selling a little bit of reefer. And, I did that for a while. And that's really, I think, kind of what started my whole sales career, as awkward as that might be. But, hey, we all do some things we learn from, right? Lessons, not losses. But I was doing that. And then I got a job as a nuclear pharmacy technician, which was an awesome job, man. I got to play with radioactive shit and hang out in a laboratory all day. But it was a third shift job. And I did not love where it put me in a mental and a physical standpoint, right? Like my mindset was messed up. I was getting way overweight. So I said to myself, hey, I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to go and become a bouncer. So I become a bouncer at this club locally. The owner realizes, hey, man, this kid ain't so bad. He's doing the work. And he offers me a position at his cigar shop working during the day, right? So I'm going to bounce at night. Then I'm going to work at the cigar shop during the daytime and pick up a couple extra hours. So the cigar shop is really where I started into like my sales career. I'm like, all right, cool. This is interesting. I don't know anything about tobacco or cigars, but I get to talk with a bunch of cool dudes. I got like your paycheck to paycheck guys. And then I've got your multi-million-dollar business owners. And they're all just hanging out, enjoying, a cigar. So me being a young guy in my early 20s at this point, was like, well, let me learn from these guys, right? Like just shut up and listen and absorb the knowledge. And my goal ended up being like, all right, how can I hit, $1,000 or $1,200 a day in sales for the cigar shop? So I was always like, all right, how can I upsell people, right? How can I find out what the prospect likes, what the client likes when they come in, and then help them make a decision to spend a little bit extra more money. Maybe they buy one extra cigar or buy something that's a little bit more expensive than what they would normally buy. And so I kind of went through this process, got promoted to manager of the store, and then ended up taking that store up to over $500,000 a year in sales. So I when I took over, I think they were doing like $350 a year. We got it up over 500, one best shop in Toledo. And this was really like what led me into sales. I never planned on being in sales, but you kind of fall into things sometimes.
Right.
So I did that for a couple of years. Got called into the owner's office on a Sunday about 2 weeks before Christmas. And so really it would have been, thinking back, maybe 10, 12 years ago now. So it's about 10 years ago is when this happened. Yeah. But I got called in 2 weeks before Christmas. Owner's like, hey, man, I really appreciate you. I love all the hard work you've put in, but I got to let you go. What? Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever lost their job, like right around Christmas.
What was that
time.
about? What was his rationale on that?
Man, so the way it was explained to me, he is like, well, we're not making as much money as you think. And, you know, my accountant's telling me we're spending too much money and this and that. And, you know, maybe I don't know, but like what I remember seeing in the books, because I was looking at the numbers, like what we paid out, what this and that, like, I mean, he wasn't broke. That's for sure.
Right.
Like, considering all he had to do was show up on Sundays and collect the cash. Like,
you know, the beautiful thing about this is rejection leads to direction.
100%. 100%. So, you know, 2 weeks before Christmas, obviously that's a difficult time. Hard to find a new position, new job right then. So I kind of floated for a couple of weeks and then got a call from one of my customers of the cigar shop. Says, hey, man, I heard what happened. Very sorry about that. I don't have full-time work, but we're getting ready to ramp up for the busy season over at this furniture store that I'm the manager of. If you want to come in and talk to the owner, we might be able to help find you a little, you know, commission-only sales job. But he's like, I think you'll do okay. I'm like, I don't know shit about furniture, but let me see what this is an opportunity of, right? So go in, have a conversation with the owner. He's like, yeah, man, we'll put you in. We'll pay you a percentage commission. Like, I can give you this many hours for this many months, and I think you'll be all right. So ended up selling furniture, sold $150,000 worth of furniture over 6 weeks, which was just a few $1,000s shy of what the guy who brought me in sold, and he had been doing it for 10 years. So this is where I really started cementing, like, okay, I think sales might be my thing, right? Everybody's like, what's my thing in life? What am I going to do? What am I going to be? I never thought it would happen this way, but sales ended up being it. So, you know, get into sales, start having some success there, get a call from a family member who says, hey, I'm opening this Allstate insurance agency here in April. You know, I want to bring you on board. Training starts in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, well, these guys told me I don't have a full-time job. Here's another opportunity. Like, probably ought to do this. Do I know anything about insurance? Absolutely not, but I'll figure it out. So that's kind of like a recurring theme in my life is, you know, when opportunity presents itself, even if I don't know everything about it, sure, I still look at it and say, all right, well, what's the upside here? Upside is make more money, not have to work weekends. What's the downside? There is no downside. Like I'm gonna have to have a job either way, right? So sure, like, let me go and do this. Right. So I go to start selling for insurance. This is really where I got into systems and processes, right? So my first couple weeks on the job, they sit me down. Here's a phone, here's a pen, and here's a printed out list of Excel names and phone numbers. It might as well have been a phone book. Smile and dial, buddy. Have at it. Go sell some shit. So I'm like, all right, well, can I get like some highlighters or something so I at least know who I've called and who's told me to fuck off and, you know, what. Right. So this is really where I got into the, very old school
CRM system. I know we're going to talk at the end of this about your CRM system that's coming up, but here's what I want you guys to remember is that all of this stuff that you're hearing right now has basically generated the momentum that Drewbie's creating in his life today. So this was how many years back, Drewbie?
The furniture gig, I probably started that
We're talking about the insurance gig right now.
Insurance gig was probably spring of 2013. April 2013 was when we started.
Okay. So let's keep the story rolling.
Yep. So sit me down. I smile and dial. I start figuring out, all right, how am I going to organize all these leads? You know, we're spending money on internet leads and we're buying this and it's all paper. And I'm like, well, let me get a system, right? So I found out what a CRM was. I never used a CRM before. So it's like, all right, well, this is the place to put all this information and organize myself. Cool. I like that. Like that. I'm a systematic guy, right? Give me a process to follow. So I get a CRM set up and then I start creating automations, right? And this is where a lot of the folks listening, I think, can really start finding benefit in their business is, you know, what are the things that you have to do every day how do you organize it? And then how do you automate it or make it more effective and more efficient so that you can get more done throughout the day? Like these calls, these emails, these texts, they all have to get done, but how can you systematize it in such a way that allows you to focus on the more important tasks, right? And so that was where I did a deep dive on my follow-up systems and my processes and what's going to happen when a new lead comes in, what emails are going to go out, what text messages, how many times are we going to call? So I built out this entire process for myself that ended up leading me to be one of the top producers in my market. And then like, how can I teach this to my team, right? How can I kind of take what has worked for me and then give it to my guys that are working next to me and help them become more effective and efficient? Ended up doing, I don't know, somewhere between like $250,000 and $300,000 in annual premiums each year that I was there. I was in insurance for about 5.5 years. And it really all came down to my follow-up process. Like insurance is a very weirdly time-based decision for most people. They don't buy it or mess with it unless they have to. Usually that's around a renewal time because the rates have gone up or they got canceled for too many accidents or whatever. You know, there's always some kind of timing issue with insurance. So it was just like making sure I understood that process and when to follow up and when were the best touch points. And so, you know, did about $300,000 a year in new premiums and basically got to a point where I kind of plateaued. And it was at that point where I had just gotten, you know, I'd been married a year or two. Our son had just been born and we had bought a new house and I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. You know, remember no weekends, but still working on the weekends and after hours because that's sales and that's just the way it tends to work sometimes. But I got to a point where I was really like struggling, right? Mentally, physically. I mean, I had what most people consider the dream, right? A Monday through Friday job, 9 to 5, no weekends. I'm married. I got a beautiful wife, kid, house. Like there should be zero to complain about. But internally, I knew that wasn't it for me. Like I was like, this is not going to be enough. I can't just have this. And so I had gone to my boss and said, hey, man, like I love you and I appreciate all the opportunity and we're doing great things together, but like I'm just not satisfied, especially because I'm only making like 40 grand a year. And I really feel like for what I'm doing, I should be making 6 figures. Like shit, man, I do more than everybody else. Like what the hell? And unfortunately for him, he said probably the worst thing he could have ever said to me at the time. He said, man, you just got to be patient. Like, just keep doing the work. You make more than everybody else in this area. Like, just be patient. And someday you're going to own one of these buildings and you're going to have your own agency and you're going to have all kinds of money coming in. But, you know, it takes time. And I was like, fuck that. Like, no, man, that ain't going to work for me. So being a sales guy, I'm like, all right, well, what are the things I can change right now that put me on the fastest path to cash? Like, what is it that I need to make more money? Well, I need to make more sales. All right. So how do I make more sales? Well, it starts with more leads. All right. How do I get more leads? Well, there's some folks out there that are using this Facebook and social media to get leads for this stuff and pretty cheap. Maybe I could learn that. So I started looking into this is where I really got into like personal development and online coaching and courses. And I'm like, oh man, this is like this whole industry where you can learn marketing and business development and all this crazy stuff. I never knew about that. So I go to these guys that have a pretty good sized Facebook group that are teaching insurance agents how to get leads. And I'm like, hey guys, super interested in your program. Can you tell me more about it? Get on the sales call. They break it all down for me. Like, all right, man, it's $1,500. I'm like, whew. That's a lot of money for a guy that's only making 40 grand a year. Like,
right.
It's not.
It's now, like 2 paychecks.
But yeah, back then it's like 2 paychecks. And I'm going, shit, man, I don't know. And so I'm like, well, I'll go and talk to the boss. So I go talk to the boss and he's like, hell no, we're not spending $1,500 on that. Like, I'll just go buy some more leads. I'm like, yeah, but I want to learn to get my own leads. It'll be cheaper. He's like, nah, I'm not spending money on that. All right. So a couple days later, I like go to the guys and I'm like, all right, guys, here's the deal. Like, boss ain't going to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it out of my own pocket, but I really need this to work. Like, I'm going to take a big risk here. And the guys are like, hey, man, that's awesome, but we can't let you in the program.
Really?
It's like 2 days ago, you guys were begging me to get my credit card out. What's up? They're like, well, turns out you're in the same market as one of our other agents, and we made a promise we won't sell to other agents in the market, whatever. And I'm like, well, that sucks, but bet you I figured this shit out.
Yeah, I can't believe they had that structured at that low of a price point. Usually that's about a 10,000 plus price point where they start. Yep. Where they start geographicing, an area. Cause we've done that before in some of our masterminds where we didn't want two of the same companies, in the same area, but that's usually a very expensive package at that point. But yeah, incredible, man. Cool. Let's keep you rolling.
Yeah, no, and I totally understand why they would do that. Like, it makes perfect sense. But what I came to find out is the guys who built the company knew I was a top producer in my market and wanted to get licensed in that market or were in the process. And so they didn't want me using all of their systems and everything and getting it all built before they could get in there and put it together. So, like,
that's scarcity right there, my friends. That's scarcity.
Yeah.
People always ask me, Drewbie, in the past because, we teach a lot of people, and I've got people directly right here in my market that not only have I trained, but I've taught all of the marketing, all of our sales systems to. And they're, so to speak, competitors. And I have never worried about that because what happened, we got closer to each other. And when we got closer to each other, you find that if you can get very close to your competition and become friends and you can help each other. And what happens at that point is that it's the rising tide, man. Everybody rises with the tide. And every time it's worked out that way. So yeah, that's the difference, y'all, between living in scarcity and living in abundance.
You're 100% right, man. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's something a lot of people deal with is like, well, oh man, I don't want to give away my secrets. And that's actually part of my story. Interestingly enough, right? I go through the same realization, but so these guys won't let me in their program. So I go, all right, well, bet, assholes, I'll figure this shit out. Like, that's just who I am. So right around this time is when Ryan Stewman releases his phone sites platform, right? Very simple website building tool, landing page builder, right? For funnels and there's a million different names for them, but it's basically just a simple website to collect customer information. Yep. So I'm like, well, for, a couple $100, I can get this software and learn how to do this shit myself. So let's give it a shot. Buy into the program, start looking into funnels and marketing and how to generate leads, build a funnel, launch it, $500 in ad spend. Again, coming out of my own pocket because I don't know if this is going to work and my boss sure as hell ain't paying for it. So I'm coming out of pocket on this. Generated 270 some leads on $500 in ad spend.
Ooh, damn. That's awesome.
Hell of a return. I'm like, whoa, this works. Call the leads, call the damn leads. That's one of the things I'm always telling people. Ended up selling about $25,000 in premium, which commission to me was like $3,000. So all my money I made back in that first month. And I'm like, bing, light bulb. Like, all right, this is the game, right? I'm a sales guy. I learned how to get my own leads. I write my own paychecks.
That's right.
So now I'm in the game. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Let's do this. Just keep doing that, generating the leads, building the funnels, start kind of sharing some of that with the phone sites group, right? So we have a private phone sites users group. And I'm like, well, selfishly, I don't want to give my secrets away and what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure out how to do more, right? Like, how do I add this and how do I set this up? And the developer of the program reaches out and he says, hey, man, I see you asking these questions in the group. I'll help you do these things, but in exchange, you have to go and take it to the group and do like a tutorial video and teach to other people. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would I give them the secrets, dude? Like, duh. And he's like, bro, everything I'm going to teach you, you can learn on YouTube and Google. Do you want to do it that way, or do you want me to give it to you and then you go and teach somebody else? I'm like, well, fuck, man, I want you to teach me because I don't want to have to figure it out. Like, that's why I'm asking these questions. He's like, all right, so get rid of that scarcity mindset and go give the game to the people in the group.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, man, if you say so. So I started making tutorial videos. Hey, here's how you add a calendar page. Here's how you send directly to a Woofu form. Like, just little things, right? Things that I was just doing to my funnel to make it work more effectively. All of a sudden, a month or two later, Facebook Messenger starts flashing. It said, hey, Ryan Stewman is calling. That's fucking weird, man.
Called you on That's the one messenger call you answer, by the way.
Well, funny enough, I had never received a messenger call. Like, I'm like, why is my computer making all this racket? Like, what's going on here?
Oh, I see. It was on your computer. Yeah.
And so I'm like, so I sent him a message back. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know if you like meant to call me or whatever, because we'd never really chatted before. I'd never really had much interaction other than like, hey, man, I love the program. Thank you. Yeah. And so he's like, hey, it's Ryan Stewman, man. How are you? I'm good, man. What's up? He's like, well, I just want you to know, I think it's awesome that you're using the program. And I really think it's cool that you're doing like all these videos and helping people in the group, man. That's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'm just trying to learn the shit along the way. And I noticed there's not a lot of people, giving back. So I just thought it would be a good thing to do. He's like, cool, man. Well, how about I pay you, a little bit of money each month to just keep doing that. And then, you can just keep doing what you're doing. Well, that's kind of a no-brainer opportunity right there, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah, man. I don't know anything about being a tech support guy, but I'll be happy to keep making these videos if that's all you need. So again, opportunity pops up. Don't have any idea what I'm doing exactly, but I'm like, hey, I think this is going to be a good opportunity. I should probably try it. Mm-hmm. Start working for Ryan, start answering some support tickets and helping some more people out. Suddenly they're going, hey, man, I know Ryan also has these other products and programs and coaching and all that. Like, how do I get into that? So I go to Ryan and I'm like, hey, man, these guys want to buy some more shit. Like, what do I do?
Sell it.
You go sell them, man. Like, here, go sell some stuff.
Sell it to them, man. It's exactly what Ryan said, isn't
it? Go sell it. What are you doing?
That's the only thing you do say, man.
Yeah, I mean, now I get it, right? But at the time, I'm going, oh no. So started selling some of his other products and programs. Still selling the insurance at this time, right? So now I've got a full-time insurance job, and I'm doing this like part-time gig in the evening, helping people as a support guy. And Ryan calls me and he says, hey, man, I think you're in the wrong business. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I think you're in the wrong business, brother. Like, I know you're doing okay with insurance, but like, I think you should fly down and spend the day with me and consider what we could do together. I'm like, I don't know, man. I got 6 years in here and like, family, kid. I probably can't. And he's like, just fly down, see what it looks like. So I fly down, spend the day with him. And I had to make that plane ride home and have that deep conversation with myself, right? Like,
right.
Am I going to walk away from 6 years of insurance where I've got a multiple $1 million book of business that someday I could own and collect residuals on? Because you got to remember, like, I didn't get residuals as a sales guy. I just got straight commission, small little salary to be in the office. Yeah. So I'm like, do I wait and potentially have something like this maybe in 5 years, could be 10 years? Or do I start over from zero and take this opportunity to go and do this coaching and mentoring thing, which, again, I don't really know shit about, but I got an opportunity. So I get home, go to my wife, says, hey, I think I'm going to start over. I'm going to start from zero. I'm going to go into this coaching thing. And thankfully, she was extremely supportive. She's like, hey, I know you're not satisfied with what you're doing. Am I scared? Yes. Am I worried? 100%. But I don't think you'll ever leave us in a position not to have what we need. So go do what you got to do. So March 1st, 2019, I officially left the insurance industry, came to work with Ryan here at Break Free Academy. And within the last almost 2 years, have done more than $2.5 million in sales, written a book.
$5 million. Y'all, in sales.
2.5 million, and that's including, shit, I'm having a bang up year this year, even though we've got all the crazy shit that's been going on. But I really think it all just comes back to, my main focus has always been, how can I help the person on the other side of this conversation? What value can I bring to their life? What can I do to help them be more successful? And the more I focus on that, the more success finds its way into my life.
No doubt, man. I noticed a reoccurring theme with you, Drewbie. You get presented an opportunity, and you don't know shit about this opportunity, right? So when it started with the cigar shop or the bouncing, and then the cigar shop, and then it went on to the furniture store. You didn't know shit about selling furniture, but you just knew that you would figure it out when you got there. And then it went on to insurance, and then the same thing happened with Break Free Academy. You didn't know shit about selling things there. You were just designing some phone sites. But you started getting some questions. You started answering some leads. You started selling some things. And then that opportunity presented itself. And how many times do people have opportunities that present themselves and they stop themselves from moving forward because they say, man, I don't know shit about that. I don't know anything about that. You got to step back and you got to look at it. I think it was Richard Branson who once said, and I think Richard Branson owns like 500 companies or some shit like that. I mean, it's incredible. It's crazy how much this guy actually owns. I mean, do you think he knows how to run every one of them companies? Of course not. There's a lot of them he doesn't know shit about, right? But he actually was quoted that if an opportunity presents itself and you don't know anything about it or how to do it, take it. You can figure out how to do it later. And it's amazing what happens to us as human beings when we step into like a pressure cooker, where it's like we're immediately jumping into the fire. And it's amazing how resilient we can become when we begin expanding. And I've said this before, our growth is contingent on how far we can expand outside of our own boundaries or how far we can step outside of our comfort zone where it's fucking scary. That's where we expand the greatest. And there's a lot of people that won't step out of that comfort zone. They're in it, man, and it's comfortable. And there's a lot of people that resist being uncomfortable. I mean, Drewbie, you've been doing shit. You did 75 hard recently. You did phase 1, which I'm in the middle of doing right now. And Drewbie even hit me up and he's like, man, I'm just telling you, dude, it's been really hard to watch my wife drink these fucking margaritas in front of me. And I'm like, don't do it, dude. Don't give in. And you didn't give in. You pushed it through. But that type of training is literally us just getting used to being uncomfortable. Is us getting used to. It's like training ourselves to be able to step outside the comfort zone where pain exists and to understand that's where growth occurs. And that's a reoccurring theme with you and your entire story, my friend. And here's the thing about Drewbie's story. This is only the beginning. I feel like this is like literally the very first chapter of Drewbie's book. Speaking about that, not only does Drewbie have a book coming, but he's also got he's a software developer. He is literally developing software as we speak. And you've already got some other things in the works. You've got closer memes, things like that, which we've already talked about, the closer memes. But let's talk about the future, the book that's going to be dropping and our software that's going to be coming here in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I appreciate that because, the book, that's one of those things, right? How do you become an authority? How do you do something that most people say they want to do but never do? Writing a book is one of them. And a lot of people are afraid to tell that story and talk about, what they've been through and their struggle because, and I know because I suffer from this, right? We don't want anybody else to see us and see our weaknesses. Like that's a human fear. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, afraid to say that they have that fear, right? Because they don't want anybody to think they're weak. But like, that's one of my fears. Like, I don't want people to see me as weak or like scared because I always want to approach everything with that confident mentality of like 0 options, man. I'm going to do this. Like I'm setting my mind to a goal and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. But there's people that have that fear of appearing weak and they're afraid to be vulnerable. They're afraid to tell that story that really, if they just told the story, more people would have that much higher of a respect for them because they'd be like, damn, like I just thought you were a confident dude. I didn't realize you've been through that. Like, then it gives you a whole nother level of confidence, right? Because you were vulnerable, which is something that most people don't want to do. And that's really what the book is about. It's about telling my story, but also doing it in a way that allows folks who have been through maybe a similar situation. You know, I had a rough childhood growing up. Dad was in and out. Mom raised 3 boys pretty much on her own. So we had our, struggles that we dealt with. I was kind of an awkward kid. So I had my own internal struggles, that we all deal with growing up. And how did I take those, what I considered to be losses at the time, and turn them into a lesson? Like, what was I able to take from that and say, well, hey, you know what? Did that suck? Yeah. But here's what I learned from it. Here's where I was able to take that lesson and apply it to future situations to get a better outcome, right? How was I able to become a better salesperson? Well, because I just focused on helping people, because ultimately that's all I ever wanted when I was growing up, was a little bit of help. So that's what it's all about, right? Like, how did I go through life and have these experiences that were some good, some bad? What lessons did I take for them? And how can I share that lesson with someone else and help them become more successful or get past that situation? That's really what the book is all about.
Incredible, man. Incredible. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out, my friend. And you know that I prodded you to continue to get it going. And actually, me and Drewbie both had the same date, so I had to go in and re-edit my book to send it back to Catherine, who we had on the podcast last week. And
great episode, by the way.
Drewbie was in the same. Literally, we found out that our books that we the exact same date, we had to have them back to our editors. So we're going to be seeing your book drop. What do you think? What's your projected timeline on it?
Man, being somewhat of a perfectionist, it's taken a little longer than it probably should. It's going into like a second round of editing. So I'm hoping it should be ready, come spring of 2021. That's my goal.
Yeah, good, man. Good. And now let's just step out and talk a little bit about the CRM system, because we heard Drewbie talk earlier that he had to do the old school phone book method where they literally drop 700 leads on your lap and you had to make phone calls and scratch out names and things like that, which led him to on his journey to figure out how to automate and how to create a process that was much more effective. And you're still on that journey today. You got to think about this. This was 10 years ago when you landed in the office, the insurance office, and got all of them leads. So just now you're on the journey of finally finalizing that. And we're in a world now where software developers and all of these amazing things can be created. And let's talk a little bit about the software that you're developing and exactly how it's going to function. How is it going to help somebody in this position of sales and calling the damn leads?
Yeah, man. And it's funny. The software started from the joke of call the damn leads, right? So we're in marketing. In our group, we have a lot of guys that do, marketing for specific industries, roofing and solar and PDR and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the biggest complaints you get as a marketer is, hey, these leads suck, or they're not any good, right? And
yeah,
even as a business owner, you've probably thought like, damn, all these leads I'm paying for suck, man. Like, I'm not getting nothing out of it. Well, one of the biggest problems is people don't call the damn leads. Like, you got their info and you just called them once or twice and hung up. And if you've been in the game long enough, it takes 8 to 12 touch points for most people to have a sales conversation, especially with the world of interruption marketing that we have now, where they see a Facebook ad and it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, let me click on that. And it's like, oh, I might be interested in that. Let me, here's my name and number and my email. So you have to be very specific in that process of staying with a lead, especially if you're paying for it, right? Some guys are paying $15 a lead up to $1,500 a lead. I mean, it's hard to say. But the fact is, you're spending money on these leads. And so if you're not exhausting every available resource to get a hold of them, calling, texting, emailing, social media messaging, right? If you're not utilizing those, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. And so talk about getting into things you don't know shit about. I know about sales and follow-up, but I don't know anything about software development. I know there's a lot of CRM companies out there, and all of them have like their cool bells and whistles and all of the stuff that they tout as making them the best CRM in existence. But every single day in our group, you see people asking like, hey, what's a good CRM? What's a better CRM than XYZ? How do I get a better this on my CRM? So it just led me to think like, hey, this is a tool a lot of people need, but there's still not a specific tool that is simple and easy for most people to use, right? So if you're a salesperson, you're a business owner, you want to log in every day, you want to see their information, you want to call them, you want to get the close, and you want to get their money. All the other shit that happens on the back end, you really don't care too much about, as long as when you show up, the name, number, and the date to call them is there. And so all of these CRMs with all of these bells and whistles and all of the fancy stuff they can do is great if you're a techie dude that has time to sit and learn how to use that software.
Very, very complicated, man.
So complicated. And, you know, when you're a business guy and you're used to swinging a hammer all day and you know, you just get on the phone and close the deal, like all that techie stuff that they say is great and you can do it's for nothing. Doesn't mean nothing because you're not going to ever do anything with it. And
you're not gonna utilize it. You just want to call the damn leads.
You just want to call the damn leads and get paid, man. I don't blame you.
Yep.
That's the game. So the reason I created this CRM is because for me, I was blessed enough to grow in kind of like that techie era where we learned to use computers and systemize things and automate it. So when I was working for Allstate, I actually got contracted by Allstate Corporate to help them build an internal CRM. They saw the processes I used and built for the CRM company that I was using. And that company teamed up with Allstate Corporate to build an in-house system. So contract with corporate to like once a week, I was getting on these hour-long calls like, hey, we want to be able to do this. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, that's okay, but I would rather do it like this. So they were taking all the shit that I built in this program and making it like an actual CRM that Allstate was using internally. And so when I walked away from that and, you know, started over at Break Free Academy and had to learn an entirely new CRM system, again, I'm like, hey, man, there's all this shit that I want to be able to do, like automate my follow-up appointments. Hey, when a lead comes in, I want to know these 15 touch points are automatically booked into the calendar so I don't forget. I want these emails to go out. I want these text messages to go out. Like this nurture campaign needs to fire off. So there's all these things that I'm like systemized, but we can't do it with the CRM that we have. It just doesn't work. So I'm like, all right, again, here's a problem faced by a lot of people. What's the simple solution? Well, hey, there's a lot of programs out there. You can white label these and get this, and that's cool. But like, again, how do I make the solution? How do I actually create what I want, what I need as a salesperson? Not some techie guy that's like, hey, I can build a cool little system. I'm like, I'm a sales guy. What do I need as a sales guy when I show up to the office every day? I need a system that's simple. I need something that reminds me to call the damn lead so I don't forget because, again, I got a lot of shit going on. I need something automated so that it will send out texts and email blasts on my behalf so I don't have to spend the time to manually send out hundreds of messages a day. Because you don't think about it, but like sending a text message takes you 15 seconds. Doesn't sound like a long time until you got to do 300 of them.
Right.
Now you're like, oh shit, that's like 45 an hour and a half just sending text messages. And that's not any distractions. That's literally just message, make a note, move to the next guy. Message, make a note, move to the next guy. But what if we can save you that hour and a half by automating all those messages? What if when you get a new lead that comes in, you know guaranteed they're going to get 15 text messages and 15 emails over the first 30 days?
Yeah.
How much easier would that be? That's what we're building. We're building a CRM by salespeople for salespeople. So all you got to do is show up and call the damn leads.
Yep. And then once you actually close that lead, you're able to obviously move it into a bucket that might be a follow-up type bucket, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, just because you sold a deal doesn't mean that transaction is over. Most people forget about, referrals. Hey, if you were happy with our services, is there anyone else who has the same problem you have that we can help solve for them? Do you think they would appreciate the simplicity of what you had in working with us to solve their problem.
That and review requests.
Bingo.
Yeah, super important, especially in any kind of service-based business where you might rely on a Yelp or Google Maps or something to that nature. If you can automate the the review request, huge thing that people forget to do all the time.
Yeah, reviews, huge, right? When you go to pick something to do a service, when you go to purchase a service or a product or something, what's the first thing you do? You go to Google and you look at the reviews. Before you go to a restaurant, hey, what do the reviews say? Well, it's got 2 stars out of 5. That's not great. What do they say? Well, it says there's cockroaches in the kitchen. Probably don't want to go there, right? Like, oh, that review's from 3 days ago.
Yeah. Cool. It's social proof is essentially what it is. And it's the same thing that even if you were driving to a restaurant and 2 of them were sitting across the street from each other and one of them had a parking lot full of cars and the other one had 1 car in the parking lot, you would immediately make the assumption that the restaurant with all the parking lot or with all the cars in the parking lot was better than the other restaurant because these people know something that I don't know. And as human beings, we actually have a mechanism inside of us that's designed to conserve energy. It's all the way back. I talk about this with the lizard brain, where any way that we can conserve energy, like people will literally look at a Facebook and if they don't see any likes on a post, they won't read it because they're using that to conserve energy. And it's automatic like, well, they must know something I don't know. So I'm just going to keep on scrolling. And at first, people think that sounds shallow. Like they will literally look at a post like, okay, well, how many likes does it have? Okay, well, now it's worth reading or now it's worth liking or something to that nature. But it's something that we have hardwired in our brain to actually conserve energy. And that's social proof. Yeah. So it's just incredible how the mind works. And but yes, that's awesome, Drewbie, that you have all of this stuff. And when could we expect to see the CRM roll out?
So lead stages, that's the name of it, lead stages. It should be ready within the next 30 days. There's some final tweaks we're putting in there, some little integrations, right? We don't want to launch it without it being fully capable of what we know it can do. So it's coming. Probably 30 days, I think. Hopefully by the new year.
Our name right there, brother. Lead stages. And I told you that when I first seen it. Absolutely fucking incredible. And it's going to be huge. This is going to be massive. And I promise you that when lead stages goes down, we'll actually bring Drewbie in on a Tactical Tuesday podcast. And we'll go live and we'll just do some training on it. We'll show you guys the functionality. We'll get in there and show you guys the nuts and bolts and how this stuff works. Super exciting.
Yeah, and what's going to be cool about it, man, is that think of it like a 5 horsepower engine. It's going to be very super simple. You just log in, put some gas, put some oil in it, fire that puppy up and get to work. Like that's the whole point of what we're trying to create. We want it to be something that doesn't take a lot of your time, doesn't take forever to get figured out. Both business owners and the employees that are going to be using it. We want it to be a very simple plug and play type of situation. And so the training should be minimal, but the results will be maximal. So we're excited.
That's awesome, dude, because, I fully understand that. Even the CRM systems that actually advertise to be the absolute easiest out there are confusing. I mean, they are absolutely confusing. And even somebody like me who I code, we build systems, all kinds of shit. I can get into some of these CRM systems. And we actually, I talked about another CRM system before. It was like the go higher level. And I literally had to fucking pay their staff to come on, like this $1,000 package to come on and train us how to even set the CRM system up. And maybe that's good for some of the bigger companies and things like that. But man, that's a lot for an individual who just wants to get fucking going. And when we actually talked about that on one of my earlier podcasts, I brought up Drewbie's CRM system because this is one of the ones that you're going to be able to step in just like you step into your car and you're going to be able to start fucking driving right away. So you're not going to have to deal with all the bullshit that a lot of these CRM companies, they must think that everybody's a tech guru. And the fact of the matter is, in most industries and most businesses, like they don't want to fuck with any of the tech stuff.
Well, and even if you're a tech dude, like people make shit so complicated because it sells well, right? Oh, well, you can do all of these fancy, complicated things. And like, that's cool. But at the end of the day, man, I just want to show up. I want to swing the hammer.
Yeah.
I want to get the job done. I want to get paid and I want to go home.
Well, they don't tell you that you have to set all that shit up. And when you get in there, they don't tell you got to go link this or you got to do that or you got to go do this. And I think that's where most people just stop and they just say, man, I'm not doing that, and they just go back to doing things the way they were doing them before. And they continue to get the same results. And that's what I love about what you're creating, man. I truly believe that you're going to be able to help a massive amount of people very quickly, very efficiently. And man, I commend you for this journey. And I'm glad that the Marketing Savage Nation out here can come along with you on this journey. And we're going to be following up and learning more about it. And it's exciting, my friend.
Hey, and I'm just grateful to be here, man. Like I said, my journey over the last couple of years has been, it's hard to even imagine if I went back and told myself, hey, man, this is what you're going to do over the next couple of years. I definitely wouldn't have believed it. But the one thing I can tell you and tell all the listeners is if you believe in yourself, anything's possible.
Yeah, man. Love it. All right, Drewbie. So to wrap this up, could you let us know where anybody can get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook, you can find me at Drewbie Rides. On Instagram, either one of those is a real great place to find me. You can listen to me. I do a daily podcast, Crushing the Day podcast. So if that's something, I know you're listening to a podcast right now. So if you want to find some more daily inspiration, check me out on the podcast or, just come and see me on Facebook, man. Come and search me out. Send me a message. I love working with people, helping them, and just providing value. And man, it's the journey I've been on all comes back to somebody taking the time to reach out and help me. So when I can have that opportunity to do the same for others, it's always a blessing.
Right on, man. We greatly appreciate that. And just to let everybody know, tomorrow is going to be the very first Winners Wednesday, where not only we explore a winner, I'm actually going to be going on iTunes and we're going to randomly select a winner of a secret prize. So if you guys have not left me an iTunes review, then you're not going to be in on Winners Wednesday. But Winners Wednesday, every week, we're going to be talking about a winner, somebody who wins at life. We're going to celebrate because here at the Marketing Savage, we celebrate winners. That's why we got Drewbie Wilson in the house right now because we are celebrating a winner. And tomorrow is Winners Wednesday. And Drewbie knows about the winning too because he won the last Marketing Savage trophy. And so he knows all about the winner. He won a lifetime subscription to the Marketing Savage Inner Circle. So Drewbie knows all about winning up in here, and we're all about it. So tomorrow is Winners Wednesday.
Can't wait.
All right, guys. So we appreciate having Drewbie along here, and I appreciate having all of you along here. And as usual, I'm going to see you on that next one.